It is over for Rachel Zegler. Her career is done. She will be lucky if she makes it on a direct-to-DVD Steven Seagal movie at this point.
The controversies surrounding Disney's Snow White remake show that we are still in the thick of the culture wars. Oh, have we been following the Snow White?
Actually, the first time hearing of this.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
Well,
It's happening, and not in the way Disney hoped. Theater chains across the country are quietly pulling the Snow White remake from their lineups, with entire screenings vanishing from schedules like a disappearing act. Some theaters are reportedly choosing to cut their losses early, citing painfully low attendance and dismal feedback from confused audiences. Independent shop owners aren't far behind. They're yanking merchandise off their shelves, discounting items, or refusing to stock Snow White-themed products altogether.
I mean, they're projected to lose between 2 and 400 million on this.
It's over. It's a wrap. Because her entire career rested on this Snow White movie being a success. It ain't look.
Online, the conversation is even more intense. Viewers are posting photos of empty theaters, mocking the movie with captions like, 7 dwarfs, 7 tickets sold. Meme accounts are having a field day, and the hashtag Snow White flop is trending. Fans aren't just skipping the film, they're actively rejecting it. Across forums and comment sections, people are calling this not just a misfire, but a full-on betrayal of everything Disney used to stand for. This isn't just a box office bomb, it's a cultural implosion, a fairy tale gone rogue, one that's not just falling short, it's crashing headfirst into Hollywood's do not repeat list.
46%. That's horrible. That's a disaster, bro. That ain't good. You might as well just, I typically say just release this garbage on Disney Plus, but nah. I think they should just forget this. Just try to erase this movie from existence completely at this point.
And right at the messy, chaotic center of it all is Rachel Zegler. Once hailed as a rising star, she's now being labeled, fairly or not, as the face of Disney's biggest embarrassment in decades, a cautionary tale unfolding in real time.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is she's not going to be safe with a prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign. I am.
I don't want to gag myself on the air, so I won't do that. You know what bothers me more than anything about this? These stories are...
But why are theaters really pulling the movie? That's where things get complicated. Disney invested over $250 million into this project. That's right, $250 million, all to remake a story that didn't just entertain generations, but literally built the Disney empire. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs wasn't some random animated flick. It was the cornerstone of Walt's dream, the very first full-length animated feature in history. It set the standard for everything that came after. So, with that kind of legacy, fans expected magic. What they got was a politically charged Frankenstein of a remake.
Housewives throughout Germany made up these stories, and then the Brothers Grimm went around and collected them and found them. These are the creations of women, and they spoke into the minds of children, and they weren't forcing children to be anything. They were talking about things that children already know are there, like witches and evil and fear and true love. They weren't creating girls who wanted to fall in love. Girls want to fall in love. It's part of the beauty of...
Instead of paying tribute to the 1937 classic that launched Walt Disney into legend status, they gutted it, and not subtly either. No dwarfs, no Prince Charming, no whimsical love story. Just a re-engineered tale wrapped in CGI sparkles, awkward, messaging, and empowerment slogans that felt more like a lecture than a story. The magic was gone, replaced by a checklist of modern talking points. The 7 Dwarfs, iconic, beloved, and symbolic, were scrapped and replaced with an odd collection of magical forest creatures. Why? Reportedly, to avoid offending anyone. But in doing so, they ended up offending everyone, from fantasy fans to the dwarf acting community. People called it a raise-your-mast version of inclusivity.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarves want to work.
Like
And honest,
a golden employment opportunity for dwarves.
there's not that many scripts that come down the pike
Not only 7 of them.
that has, and there's seven dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right. This is demeaning. And they were like, what? We just want to work. We're dwarves.
Then came the charming prince, or rather, the lack of one. He was cut for consent issues, as Disney sought to rewrite the story through a modern lens. They said the kiss in the original felt outdated. Fans said the rewrite felt forced. And Snow, white? She was no longer the sweet, kind-hearted dreamer who charmed animals and taught kindness. She was reimagined as a no-nonsense modern heroine who doesn't need a man, doesn't want a man, and seemingly doesn't enjoy being in a fairy tale at all. She was positioned as a revolutionary figure, one who didn't sing with birds or wish it a well, but instead challenged patriarchal systems and demanded hourly compensation for costume time. Sounds empowering, right? Until the audience, the one Disney depends on, completely turned on it. What they saw wasn't empowerment. It was a legacy being dismantled, a childhood memory rewritten by committee. And worst of all, it didn't feel sincere. It felt corporate, like someone at a boardroom table decided fairy tales were outdated and tried to turn one into a marketing message with a $250 million budget.
Rachel Zegler spent her energy, her time, leading up to the release of this Snow White movie, shitting on the original, right? And not to mention that the people that voted for Trump tend to be people that appreciate more wholesome values, traditional values, people that tend to have kids, right? Because that other side, right? The woke weirdos, the lizards, these people, they don't believe in that.
Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Disney's next big thing, the rising star fresh off her breakout role in West Side Story. She had everything going for her: youth, talent, vocal chops, and a golden ticket into the most iconic fairy tale role of all time. But when she sat down to promote the Snow White remake, everything fell apart, faster than Disney executives could issue a press release. Instead of embracing the role with reverence, Rachel came out swinging, mocking the original story that millions had grown up loving. She didn't just criticize the plot, she dismissed it entirely. She called the prince a stalker, implied the romantic arc was problematic, and claimed the story was no longer relevant in today's world. Her tone, cold, detached, and oddly arrogant for someone stepping into such a beloved legacy. Then came the viral quote, the one that made everything 10 times worse.
I think Rachel Zegler probably wants this too. I think Rachel Zegler, she probably wants people to forget about this movie. She wants people to forget this entire experience. She would probably appreciate Disney just making this movie go.
At this point, it's likely that Rachel Zegler wants the same thing everyone else does, for this whole thing to disappear. She probably wants people to forget about this movie, forget the interviews, the backlash, the memes. She'd likely appreciate it if Disney just quietly made the whole project go away. In an interview, she said she should be paid for every single hour she had to wear the Snow White dress, not just during filming, but even for appearances and streams. The comment was clipped, memed, and reposted across social media like wildfire. Critics called her entitled, fans called her ungrateful, and even those on the fence started questioning her attitude. The backlash was instant and overwhelming. Fans weren't just annoyed, they were furious. They said she didn't respect the character, the legacy, or the fan base. One commenter's words echoed across the internet, "If you hate the role so much, why take it?" That single sentence became the rallying cry of frustrated viewers everywhere. Social media threads lit up, YouTubers created entire videos breaking down her interviews frame by frame, and people compared her to past Disney princesses who showed class and admiration for the characters they portrayed. Rachel, on the other hand, came across as if she couldn't care less. What should have been a triumphant PR tour quickly spiraled into a reputation nightmare. To make matters worse, Rachel didn't backtrack. She didn't clarify, apologize, or even soften her tone. Instead, she doubled down, liking tweets that defended her, retweeting fans who praised her blunt honesty, and continuing to distance herself from the very story she was hired to represent. Industry insiders started whispering the Disney execs were regretting their casting decision. Meanwhile, fans started organizing hashtag campaigns to boycott the film entirely. People didn't see a young star honoring a classic. They saw someone treating a fairy tale like a burden, someone who wanted the paycheck but none of the responsibility. And once the internet decided she was the villain in this story, there was no saving the narrative. But that was just the beginning. Snow White's IMDb score? A brutal 1.6 out of 10. That's not just low, it's a cinematic faceplant. One of the lowest ever for a major Disney release. It didn't just raise eyebrows, it set off sirens. Viewers rushed to social media, not to sing its praises, but to join the roast. Meme accounts were flooded with side-by-side comparisons of Snow White scenes and poorly lit student films. One viral tweet said it looked like a high school play directed by ChatGPT on a caffeine crash. Others were even more savage. Some fans joked the film felt like a fever dream generated by a TikTok algorithm. One comment read, "It's like Disney asked Instagram influencers to write the script over brunch." Ouch. Then came the critics, and they didn't hold back. They called the film lifeless, bizarre, and a confused mix of self-righteous messaging and hollow storytelling. It wasn't just bad, it was confusing. Critics struggled to identify who the movie was even made for. Kids found it boring, adults found it preachy, longtime Disney fans found it insulting, and the visuals were brutally mocked as a mashup between a rejected Netflix filter and Halloween costume lighting. But perhaps the most shocking part? The merchandise. Reports flooded in that major retailers started quietly pulling Snow White-themed products from shelves, toys, costumes, books, all disappearing. Some stores slashed prices by 80%, trying to offload what they now called unsellable inventory. Parents weren't buying it. Kids weren't asking for it. Collectors were skipping it. It was a total collapse of brand appeal. That's when the question started floating around. Was the movie getting banned? Not officially, Disney hadn't pulled it. But if theaters are dropping screenings, stores are clearing shelves, and even hardcore fans are saying, no thanks, is there really a difference in the public's eyes? This film wasn't just ignored, it was rejected. And that's a much deeper problem. Inside Disney, things got messy fast, and not just in the boardroom. The internal temperature spiked as soon as early screenings rolled in. Rumors say the PR team was in full-blown crisis mode, pulling late nights and scrambling to craft damage control messaging before the internet completely turned on them. One source even joked that the team started working in panic shifts just to keep up with the daily blowback. Bob Iger, reportedly livid, wasn't just upset, he was furious. Multiple insiders say he felt blindsided by the scale of the backlash, and that the film's marketing team had lost the plot. Both figuratively and literally, emergency meetings were allegedly held behind closed doors, with urgency bordering on desperation. The goal? Stop the bleeding before it hit Disney's bottom line harder than it already had. Meanwhile, high-ranking executives were already brushing up their resumes, bracing for the fallout. Some feared this wasn't just a flop, but a brand-altering misstep that could lead to executive reshuffling. One anonymous source said people knew heads were going to roll. No one wanted to be the one holding the script when the music stopped. Morale inside the company was plummeting. Employees started sarcastically calling the project Snow Wrong, a title that quickly caught on across departments. The nickname wasn't just a jab, it was a symbol of growing disillusionment. Reports surfaced that multiple test screenings had clearly warned Disney leadership that audiences weren't connecting. The feedback was consistent: confusion, discomfort, and disappointment. And yet, the studio pushed forward anyway, confident. They could spin it with the right trailer and social media buzz. Now they're dealing with what one source allegedly called a controlled fire that turned into a wildfire. And behind all this chaos, Rachel Zegler, unapologetic, defiant, and doubling down. She wasn't just a name on the cast list anymore. She'd become the lightning rod for everything that went wrong. This wasn't just a box office blunder. It cracked open a much bigger conversation: Hollywood's obsession with reboots, Disney's messaging-first strategy, and the growing fatigue from audiences who just want a good story without the lectures. Both sides of the political spectrum slammed the movie. Some called it woke nonsense. Others said it was corporate feminism with no soul. Either way, the consensus was brutal. This wasn't entertainment. It was a checklist disguised as a film. And in the middle of it all, Rachel still making headlines. For all the wrong reasons. Now, here's where things get emotional. Behind the scenes, sources claim Rachel was shaken. Publicly, she clapped back. She dismissed critics as outdated and unwilling to evolve. She liked posts praising her performance, retweeted fans who cheered her on, and stayed silent when others begged her to apologize. Rumors swirled that the studio asked her to tone it down, that publicists were fighting to keep her from speaking freely. Some insiders even whispered that Rachel was emotionally overwhelmed, locked in a media firestorm she couldn't control. But she didn't back down. She kept speaking, and every time she did, things got worse. So, what happens now? Can Disney recover? Will Rachel get another shot? The truth is, nobody knows. Theaters are still slashing showings, Disney's financial losses keep climbing, and fans are walking away, not just from this movie, but from the brand itself. What used to be magic now feels like marketing gone mad. For Rachel, it's a career. Crossroads. She could reinvent herself or disappear into a Hollywood cautionary tale. One thing's certain, this Snow White debacle will haunt both her and Disney for a long, long time. This was supposed to be a celebration of legacy. Instead, it became a masterclass in what not to do. Don't mock your audience. Don't ignore. Feedback. Don't burn the foundation that built your empire. Because once you lose the trust of the fans, no amount of sparkle can fix it. And if you think the drama is over, think again. Whispers of deleted scenes, PR panic, legal teams circling. It's not just a flop, it's a full-blown Hollywood horror show. And we're watching it in real time, so smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your take in the comments. Are you shocked by how badly this all turned out? Or did you see it coming from the very first trailer? Either way, this is one fairy tale that didn't get a happy ending. And we'll be here bringing you every twist as it drops, because the next scandal might be even wilder.